want to start? All right, we'll let Henry warm up stuff, and then I'll check in.
So no one doing this over Skype?
Not that I've seen yet. And then I'm gonna post it this morning so once that happens, everyone will be able to. And today we probably won't take the whole hour. We'll probably do 30, 45 minutes.
Nice.
Get y'all home, get y'all fed and in bed, right? Sooner than later, right?
Thanks, guys. See y'all soon.
See you.
Bye, Neo.
Okay, let's do a quick check-in. We'll start to my left. Name, how you're doing, and tell me about a small habit within your recovery. Very small, small as you can think. Small habit in your recovery. It made a huge difference that you continually try to practice. Just a super small. It could be super, just tiny. I'm hoping for a tiny one.
Well, I guess it's not small. I'm John, doing pretty good today. Small thing was just like saying the strength exercise real quick. Doing that several times a day.
Awesome.
That's a big thing, but it's also a really quick thing.
So small things can be big things at the same time. Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Henry.
My name's Henry. Oh, great. I just did 2 classes. So, yeah, that was fun. A very small thing that I do every day for my recovery. I'd say I try to focus on staying hydrated. Because if I feel dehydrated, I feel shitty. If I feel shitty, things are difficult.
In my experience, dehydration is something that people take a while to address.
Yeah.
Because it's not super noticeable, especially when you're using water is kind of the last. I'm glad that was something you picked up.
I'm done. You're good. I'm doing pretty good. I'm not really like an addict, so like, but what I do to just for personal growth, I could say, I just personal affirmation and power language. That's it. Great.
My name is Davin. I'm doing well. Something small that I've done. Within this community has been just finding routines in my days, because I think a lot like this community, everyone has very chaotic schedules and tries to find something more stable. Having some sort of routine that I can follow helps to ground me amidst all the chaos. So that's something I've been trying to implement, and it is small, but it feels big, like some of you are mentioning. But it's just something as simple as make sure, it makes it better. Just these little routines that I get to really help ground. And I hope today with our topic, this is something that is going to make a huge impact, but we start with small little changes to our sleep. What typically happens when someone leads a class is, here's all the things you're doing right, here's all the things you're doing wrong, make these changes, you'll be good, right? And it doesn't work. So what I'd really like us to do is just have a discussion about our personal experiences, what's worked for us, especially helping support our health, whatever that would mean to you, either your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health. All those things can be related to what we're talking about today. Okay? So the first thing I want us to do is take a look at this sleep assessment. I almost said form. Form sounds like a doctor's office thing. But I'd like to take a second with you three to just look and go through this form. And the purpose of this assessment is just to give us insight. It's not meant to judge good or bad, just getting a landmark of where we're at right now. Okay, so go through these different things, answer true or false, and give us a little total for each section. Okay, take the next 5 minutes or so.
answer this question? Or if it's only on the weekends?
Let's just mark it to give ourselves recognition that this does happen.
I'll mark it as true. Are we marking for the total? Are we doing trues?
So you will total the false responses.
Okay,
circle.
cool.
Yes, that will be your total number for each section.
Okay,
Don't think too hard about
okay, I'm just gonna say false.
it. Whatever your gut says with it.
Because like I said, I'm not in a habit, right? But like once every 3 months, I absolutely have like 2 beers.
That's okay. So this assessment's not for people specific in recovery. It's just really general. And another way to look at it is normally this happens around bed or to answer the question.
Normally,
If it's once a year or once every so often, I wouldn't really count. What is a normal night for you?
okay.
Heated
debates right before bed. Luckily, that's a no for me.
I used to be.
Man, just go on Twitter, you'll get one. Every night, Twitter has loads of those.
Or
Toxic marriage.
Yeah. Totally. Like, I've had housemates I've lived with who just can't see you after dinner. You just don't really want to associate. Cool. So once you've totaled those, you can flip it to the back. You'll transfer all those numbers over to get a total score. And that total score will provide you with some sort of indication of what that means. And maybe if you need some improvements, you're doing well and you're steady, things of that nature.
Solid. The high range too.
So now we have a little bit of landmark to go off of. And just looking at these different categories, they're separated into 4, right? So the first one is environment. Right? So does my environment provide me a place where I can get adequate sleep, quality sleep? Okay, so those are some of those. And some of the common things you'll hear people to tell you to do for sleep, right? Take the electronics out of the room, make your room cooler so it's not hot and sweaty, make it dark. All of those are really key first things that we recommend to do. Anyone have any comments or practice their environment particularly?
white noise.
Yeah.
That's awesome stuff.
I got one of those machines. I have my window wide open with a fan on.
That's a cold room. That's a cold room, yeah.
I keep my room free because like I mean maybe it's just me thing, but like you know when your room's like freezing cold and then you put a nice warm blanket on and then whole body like warms up. That is the only time I can sleep.
And sometimes, especially throughout our life or in the future, sometimes having additional people in that space, whether it be a partner or like you live in a dorm style, right? Thinking of those times potentially, that could have influenced how you slept at a point in time. So it sounds like we have a lot of control, and at least in this room of people, of what our environment looks like.
Yeah.
So thinking to ourselves, if that ever changes, what are some key things I'm going to make sure that are my boundaries, right? To make sure that my environment's safe for my sleep. Great. Before bed. So there's a number of things that can happen before bed that alter our sleep. Okay. That first one, alcoholic beverages. I think within this community, that question is very clear. But I just want to point out, alcoholic beverages, drugs, substances like that. Previously, yeah, those were massively interrupting our sleep. Oh yeah, the quality of it. So just keeping that in mind, that is always going to be something that influences our sleep. Okay? And then there's some other things like stimulants, nicotine and caffeine. Anyone have experience with those and their sleep?
I will wake up in the middle of the night and smoke my vape.
Yeah.
Really addicted. But no caffeine. So.
Sure.
But the nicotine thing is definitely like one of my drawbacks when it comes to my sleep, for sure.
I think nicotine will actually wake me up in the morning, like, because I'm used to trying to drink my coffee and smoke my cigarette before my daughter wakes up. So like I'll wake up, even if I went to bed late, I'll wake up at like 6:30 in the morning just with my body like it's on a clock, but like a cigarette.
Yeah.
I don't smoke cigarettes.
Lucky.
About caffeine.
I mean, I drink a coffee every morning, but like that's at 8 a.m. So by the time it hits bedtime, I actually quit cigarettes when I was 19. I smoked from 12 to 19. Honestly, since I started coming to FTR and working out 5 days a week, I haven't had any issues sleeping at all. Like, I used to struggle from insomnia, but ever since I joined FTR, just can't say that's
Totally. And the same point, exercise is a great thing. Or sorry, our next point before bed. Exercise is a great thing to help regulate our sleep. It helps us be in more tune with our energy levels. And our body's like, wow, like we put out all these things we need to recover, drives us to sleep a little bit more. However, it can work against us if we're too close to bed, right? We get all amped, we get all excited from working out, our heart rate, we're nice and warm and hot, and we try to go to bed an hour later, right? It's extremely difficult because our body temperature actually needs to drop 2 degrees to fall asleep. 2 degrees. So we need to cool, we need to restore that process. Some of us, and I'm guilty of this too, we work out, we don't do any cool down, we walk right out that door, we say bye, we drive home.
Yeah.
We expect to start that process. Something that I've seen be really helpful is to take some time to cool down. Maybe walk outside with some buddies. Hey, you want to walk around the block for 5 minutes? That'll help cool down that process, start that recovery. Because I know some of us can only exercise in the evenings, you know. So that is always something to balance with our sleep. Anything else in the before bed category that kind of was interesting?
I will say, and this is me being very honest, on the weekends especially, because I count them as my like cheat days, you know, where because I really like Hostess. Like, it's bad. If I'm honest, Hostess is like my weakness. So like I've limited to weekends. Like every like Saturday and Sunday, they always give me Twinkies and then go to bed. It's a problem. I'm just being honest. That's why I circled Truth It.
Yeah.
That's something I need to work on. Yeah. I love Twinkies. Yeah. And Ho-Hos and Ding Dong Snowball stuff. For the rest of it.
Sounds like me when I was trying to limit my drinking.
Yeah. Well, I don't drink either, right? So it's like,
That's good.
no, like I said, I don't have as much fun as you guys.
We'll come back to weekend versus weekday eating and things like that because
But I'm gonna admit my weekends are shit.
it's okay. We have different strategies to try and look at why. Okay. After bed, these are just questions to assess if you're getting enough sleep. You know, I hear a lot of times, especially in the busy world that we live in, even more so as men, you just got to push through. You got to get as much done as possible. You're not tired. You just got to keep pushing through these different things. And sometimes it's tough to reflect and say, I'm putting out so much. Am I recovering? Am I resting enough? And how do I measure that, right? Because if we always feel tired, that's our new normal, right? Oh, I slept 4 hours last night. I feel fine, right? But slowly along the way, we're missing a lot of things. We're missing a lot of things that we might not notice until it's a problem, right? So just reassessing every single time, like, hey, do I feel that my sleep is adequate? And if not, what do I have to do? Does anything stick out after bed? That's a noticeable trait. If you did have a good sleep or you did.
Discomfort and pain for me. It's been like 3 years. I had my heel hip replacement over a year ago. But then 2 years before that, I was just in pain. So like, I'm used to it, but like I'm tossing and turning a lot. Try to ease the pressure on that joint.
Yeah.
So that part sucks. But since coming here, you are like tired of the thing.
So one interesting thing that comes up, especially in the recovery community, is I've met individuals who haven't slept good, period, for trauma reasons, for medication reasons, things of that nature. And I'm not here to say that, well, if we just do these things, your sleep's going to be better. I think there are limitations on how good a sleep someone can get. The better question, or the way we can influence it, is if I know I'm going to have poor sleep, or I can recognize I've had poor sleep, what there can I do with the rest of my day to make sure I can function as best as I can, right? So things like nutrition, things like exercise. What are reasonable ways that I can still care for my health that don't often relate to sleep? Awesome. So that's an assessment. We can always return to that in the future. I have more copies if you want to do this after the wellness challenge to see if your scores improve, but it looks like it's pretty good so far. Okay, moving on to our next sheet here. It just talks a little bit about sleep and highlights why it's important. And one of the challenging things I find with this is it's like if I made this worksheet but said flossing, right? Flossing is good for everybody. No one will disagree that, like, oh, flossing's not that good. Everyone knows, but if I went around this room and said, do you floss? I might get some mixed answers, right? If we polled everybody at FDR, we'll get some mixed answers. Right?
Look, if I'm honest, I could floss more. Like, if I'm honest.
Totally.
You know.
We could all floss more, we could all sleep more and a little bit better. Okay, so that kind of falls in these categories, and that's why I mentioned the small habits early. Because they're such simple things, yet we have such difficulty doing them on a regular basis. So I just want us to take that framework moving forward with this. So sleep is important for all of those things. I want you to take a look at that list and tell me, or tell us, which one of these is most important to you.
I know which one already.
Go for it, Henry.
Mental health.
Elaborate a little bit on that.
In the past, when I haven't been sleeping well, it is directly correlated to how depressed or anxious or just how much I'm struggling. And then it can kind of be like a circle. Lack of sleep can affect that. That can affect my sleep, give me insomnia, anxiety around sleep and all of that. And so for me, if I'm able to have healthy sleep habits, it's so much easier to tackle the whole mental health stuff day by day. Granted, like there'll be times when I might have a bad night's sleep, but that's okay. But like this time in recovery, it's a big priority for me. And if I get 5 out of 7 days really good sleep, then it's a lot easier to tackle all the mental health challenges that come up. So
I'm gonna ask you a kind of follow-up question too.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes I hear people mention how important sleep is, and that can give anxiety around sleep. Like, oh, I have to get to bed on time, and I have to get 8 hours, otherwise I'm gonna feel like crap tomorrow. Tell me about your experience. Did you experience the anxiety to sleep, and how did you go work through that?
Yeah, I experienced that for years. Like it started when I was, I think, about 11, where until my early 30s, where it was just kind of like that from time to time, the anxiety around sleep, and it would just create insomnia. And then that ramped up my using, of course, and it was easy for me to get high because it's just like, I know what will put me to sleep for sure. There are those things. And in recovery now, my thought process is, if I don't get a lot of sleep tonight, it's not a big deal, because I've done plenty of sleepless nights. I've, gone to work hungover so many times in my life and made it through. And I've been through so much hard stuff that one night of not good sleep is okay. And usually with my pattern, if I don't have good sleep one night, the next night I'm usually going to sleep pretty well. And so I'm mindful about my pattern and knowing that, hey, it's not a big deal. I'll sleep good tomorrow. And yeah. So I just try to kind of like talk myself down if like the anxiety starts coming up, but it doesn't come up too much anymore. But it used to, like it was like every night thing for sure.
From what I hear, it sounds like you had a lot of self-compassion for, hey, this is an imperfect practice. We all wish these things would happen, but when they don't, it's not something where we have to overreact to it.
Oh yeah, it's interesting that you say that too, because like working on the whole perfectionism thing, it's like it's important being like, you know, you do not have to. There's going to be people like that want good sleep every night, and it's just not. I don't think anybody in the world has great sleep every night. I think in general, as humans, we're going to go through stresses that make us sleep less, and that's okay as long as we can like sleep enough to be able to get through that tough period or that tough night. So.
I would say definitely mental health, but also being creative. If I don't sleep well, I can't really dig into my imagination and stuff. If I don't make stuff, I don't get money. So it's like sleep is like part of my job.
Yeah.
So it seems like that's also important. But yeah, for sure, depression and anxiety. I know if I don't get that well sleep for a couple of days in a row, my mind just starts deteriorating.
I need to go too.
Yeah. Which one's the most important to you?
I want to pick somebody else. I was going to pick mental health.
Oh, that's okay too. That's okay too. Go for it.
Okay, sure. You know, I'm just weird. I get that I'm weird. I feel like I get even more weird when I'm sleeping. It's bad. You know, it helps us work on thoughts. You can do both of those, right? Because my kind of weirdness, you know, it makes me really, really impulsive. It's the worst thing ever. You know, like, it's just like there's a small voice in my head that's always telling me to go. And so, like, sleep helps me calm down. You know, so especially like big purchases, right? Like, I've always find myself finding things I want that cost a lot of money, and it's like I see that happen. It's like, as long as I sleep on it, I tend to find myself not buying it and being less impulsive.
Cool. And leading that, it's a great segue too. Sleep is huge for the decision-making processes of our nutrition, right? So they work both ways. It's a two-way arrow that nutrition affects our sleep and our sleep affects our nutrition. So in here, it just talks about how sleep regulates our hormones. And hormones do a lot of things for us. They tell us when we're hungry. They tell us when we're full. They tell us how much we want to eat, what types of foods we want to choose. Is there anything that sticks out after a poor night of sleep? What types of foods sound good to us?
Cheeseburgers. Oh my God. After a poor night of sleep, all I want is a goddamn cheeseburger and a milkshake.
Yeah. Cheeseburgers, milkshakes, what else?
Carbohydrates.
After you get that night's sleep, you have to make sure you wake up early enough to get balanced breakfast.
Salad beverage, right?
Get yourself some hotcakes.
Yeah. Totally. So that's a super common experience to have this increased appetite. I've also seen other individuals, and you may have experienced this when you're stressed or really stressed. Some people tend to eat more. Some people will completely lose their appetite.
I'm that way for sure. If I'm stressed, which is weird because I normally love food, I just won't eat at all.
Yeah.
For sure, I noticed that.
And that will continue to change throughout your entire life. Sometimes you'll gravitate towards foods when you're stressed. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes with lack of sleep, it could be one or the other. So just being sensitive to that idea that, my nutrition is different, and I think it's related to my sleep. That's a huge breakthrough when you can understand the connection. A lack of sleep, I think each one of you have experienced the detriments and potential downfalls of lack of sleep.
Oh yeah.
And for some of us, and you'll find interesting people who, you know, they can get away with 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and you'll hear things about, oh, humans don't need to sleep 7 to 8 hours, which is the recommendation, and rightfully so. Some people just don't experience the negative effects as intensely as some other people. However, they still will, over the course of time, experience negative health effects. That is a fact that you don't sleep 7 to 8 hours roughly. Yeah. And when we were kids, guess how much sleep we needed?
Yeah, 12, 14.
9 to 10, so a little bit above. Maybe some of us got more than that.
I always heard it was 9 to 11 for kids, and then it's 7 to 8 for adults.
9 to 10. Then when you get like really like old, doesn't your sleep need go down too?
So it's a combination. It's actually more of older people will tend to stay up later and they'll wake up earlier. Their biological clock becomes shorter. So yes, they need still 7 or 8 hours, but they physically can't stay asleep because of other influences in their own clock. So it actually works against when you age, your sleeping patterns become more erratic.
Take a space change.
Things like dementia, things tend to become more common because the sleep changes.
Oh, cool.
Take a space change.
In the sense that sleep might not affect us when we're younger, as we age, it will definitely become more apparent to us. Especially if like things like dementia run in our family, which it doesn't mind. Sleep while you're younger can definitely help out. Okay, awesome. So we'll flip to the back of here just to kind of round things out here. Just talking about the nutrition and sleep connection again, how nutrition affects our sleep. If you have a poor night's sleep, what typically happens with most people is they'll consume stimulants like caffeine or nicotine. That boosts us back up. It becomes a cycle of chasing energy, having low energy and high energy, and low energy and high energy, until we get that chance to catch up. And whether it's your lifestyle or life events that kind of influence that, just keep in mind that stimulants is not the answer out. It will never be a sustainable answer. Just trying to moderate it. And I'm not the caffeine or the nicotine police. I just want us to be mindful of, okay, I've had X amount and I can sleep okay with X amount at this time of the day. I've doubled that today. That's going to really influence my sleep. So I'm going to try to stay in a range that feels comfortable for my life. Future topic that I want to talk about is sleep and nutrition affect our gut. So our bacteria in our stomach, there are more bacteria in our stomach than stars in the entire solar system. That's a lot. I'm not an astronomer or anything, but I know there's a lot here. And housed inside of our stomachs are tons of bacteria. And those bacteria talk to our brain. They have this little communication pathway that work together. So just stressing the importance that what we put in our body, how we sleep, how we manage our stress, affects these guys, and these guys affects these guys. So it's all related. Henry used the word cycle earlier.
Yeah.
It's all a big old cycle.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And that last paragraph too, these are some things as far as foods or nutrients specifically that can help. I said they might help, but they are not a major solution. Not a major solution to, we're just not getting enough sleep. We're not preparing ourselves to sleep on time. Those behavioral things that we might be missing affect our sleep. Stuff that we can try for sure, but I wouldn't go home and say, all right, I'm going to get better sleep because I had some tea or I ate this.
Yeah, I ate a ton of turkey and drank some sleepy time. I'm ready for bed. Yeah.
There's much bigger things that you can do. Cool. So again, a lot of tips there based on environment that you all answered in that first assessment. Sounds like we're doing really good. And yeah, 7 to 9 hours. I know for some of us that's not reasonable with our lifestyle or our work, but that is the recommendation. And you'll find a sweet spot. Wow, 7 hours, I feel great. 9 is too much. Shoot for 7.
I've noticed that like just at 8 is perfect for me. 7's not quite enough to feel like fully. And then 9, I feel kind of groggy.
Yeah.
It's like 9 is like, oh, then I could sleep for 12.
Yeah.
If I get that 8 hours, it's like perfect, easy to wake up,
Yeah.
feel great all day.
Yeah.
You know.
How about naps? How do we feel about naps, guys?
I wish I could take more, but I can never have time in my day more.
What do we consider a nap?
30 minutes.
30 minutes?
When I really only take naps when I know I don't have anything to do that day or even the next day, because I know it's going to affect my sleep that night.
Sure.
And my naps are usually significant,
Yeah.
between 3 and 4 hours.
Yeah.
So half asleep.
Half sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, a
That's
night's
why
sleep.
that's why you can't do that for the rest of the day.
Yeah, so I try to avoid them unless it's a thing.
I know if I have if I know I have a free hour, I'll set my alarm for an hour.
Yeah.
I'll lay there, and if I fall asleep, great. But if not, I'll just try to just lay there and meditate, not be on my phone or anything. Just
Love that.
turn my brain off. And most of the time, I'll get like 30 minutes of sleep.
Yeah.
It's really working out pretty good. And then I sleep better at night, and I do that too.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been trying to do more of lately. Instead of the 4-hour nap, it's just like a yoga nidra or a non-sleep deep rest thing on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Totally.
Because it's like,
I do meditate a whole lot.
yeah, as good as a nap, right? But you don't get like that into the full.
Yes.
Yeah.
So once we start to exceed that hour and a half mark, we start to tap into our brain. We're telling our brain, hey, we want to go deep into sleep. We want to shut everything down. If I woke up at night, you'd be really groggy at that point. So kind of cutting ourselves off into some ranges, and it sounds like meditation, whether it be 10, 15 minutes, just making it quiet for our brain, turning it down, not off, is super powerful, right? Like the creative piece, just giving our brain quiet space to kind of talk to itself, because our brain communicates to itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's super powerful. So I wouldn't overlook, and it doesn't sound like we do, but I wouldn't overlook those 5 or 10 minutes. It gets dark, we just close our eyes, we just lay on the floor if there's no couch, and we just kind of chill out.
Sometimes you need those 30-second meditation too. You ever have, like, I work in a call center, right? I talk to a lot of idiots, like a lot of idiots. And sometimes you just need to put them on hold and give yourself like a minute. You ever have that silent 1-minute meditation?
All the time.
Right. This guy's not worth your job. 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 Get things quiet. And then you go back to work. Like, what's up, buddy? All right, your credit is shit and this is quiet. All right.
Yeah, those are key.
Those are my naps, if I'm honest. Those 1 minute before I freak out, keep my brain quiet. That's it.
Awesome. Well, I love that. Thank you all for that. All your personal contributions to that. To close out, let's just go back around and tell me one thing you're going to take away from today's class. Can I go start this?
All right. Definitely think a little harder on my habits. Real bad. Just thinking like everything that I do affects my sleep.
Thanks, John. I'm Henry. I learned that my sleep environment is actually pretty good, but I can really the things I need to work on is the nicotine before bed and during sleep, and not eating chocolate before bed. That's like one of my things. I love snacking on chocolate before bed. But I could definitely eat chocolate at a different time of day and still enjoy it just as much. So,
Do you think that's a boredom thing, or your body asking for more food?
I think it's more of a boredom thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
I think it's more of a habit thing now.
Yeah.
You know, than my body really necessarily needing food.
You know, the only thing that I do in this list really, like, consistently every single night is listening to the TV on. Same show. Simpsons. So
You have The Simpsons programmed deep into your subconscious.
You know what it is? I think
That's a good point.
I think it has something to do with my mental health. Because, like, if I'm honest, I used to have this like ex-girlfriend, and she put me through some shit. And like ever since that, like I have really bad anxiety, like especially like, or at least I used to, or especially around sleep times.
Mm.
And then I noticed, like I started doing this like 7 months ago. I turned on The Simpsons and I was sleep quick.
Yeah.
And every single night since then, I turn it on and I sleep within 10 minutes. I could now that it's been a long time. I could try not doing that.
You could give it a try and see how it works. See if you're more anxious, you know, if you don't turn on The Simpsons, or if you just kind of need to wean off The Simpsons.
Literally, yeah, you know, I'm addicted to that Bart man. You know what I mean? Like I need that Bart. Like, Homer's my spirit animal. I swear.
Homer's your spirit animal.
Awesome. My name's Davin, and yeah, I'm just gonna take away. Like, I'm super impressed with how you all have made sleep a really important part of your lives and recovery. And yeah, I feel like I didn't meet with any resistance, because sometimes people really don't think sleep can benefit them. But I'm so happy to hear that message has come across to each of us, and just continue to practice. Again, it's a practice, not a perfectionist thing. A practice of trying to be our best selves, and sleep is one of those easy ways to try and do that. So, thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Davin.
being here.
It's good stuff. I feel accomplished.
Yeah.
I'll go get some sleep on this.
I would stay in bed, but I have too much bread to make